You know, there are a lot of beliefs about change, and a lot of them come from the books we read. In fact, this book, Who Moved My Cheese? It says at the bottom, the world's most popular management method. I was talking to the editor of the publishing house of this book, and he told me that the reason it was a bestseller was because all the CEOs bought the book, giving it to their people, hoping that they would get with it, get with the picture, and make the change. The problem is that there's so many things left out of this book. In fact, you'd be better off following this book, 301 Ways to Have Fun at Work. That this would probably be more effective than this one. Some of the things that have been left out of this have to do with the natural human reaction to change. In fact, I was hired by a company to come in and do a Beyond the Cheese class because they had implemented this in the company, and it turned out that they not only made people very angry and upset with forcing people into change, but they even had a lot more lawsuits because people felt that they just weren't even dealt with as human beings. If you look at this card that came along with the book, there's a number of beliefs right on this card that overlook the human factor. The first one, it says to anticipate change. Well, it's true that change does happen and we can anticipate that change will happen. But the truth is we cannot predict exactly how we're going to deal with the change once it's there. We cannot tell who am I going to be, what my new relationships are going to be like. Because you see, what happens in the brain, we think we can predict the future, when all that's happening is we're taking bits and pieces from the past and we're mixing them with what we feel right now, which is generally a little bit of fear, maybe a little bit of anger, and then we project out what that change is going to be. Well, there's no way of really knowing until we actually live the change. The best thing that we can do as leaders is to help people to express what fears, what anger they may have, and to stay confident, to stay hopeful in the moment, to help them to also see the possibility, to be asking them, how else could you see this change? What could happen that could be good for you in this change? And then we stay with them in the process until the change actually occurs. Because when the change occurs, then we're going to have to deal with a whole new bag of tricks, really, when people actually step in to the new roles that they have to take. The second myth is adapt to change quickly. Well, again, that's what most leaders would love. They would love for people, as the Nike ad says, just do it. We call that the Tarzan swing. In truth, though, people can't just do it because it's not that they're changing a task, they're also changing who they are. Who am I going to be in this new environment? Who am I going to be in relationship to people? How am I going to be successful? They have to, as if they have to kind of sense it out and feel for themselves, how is this really going to work for me? It's more like they have to just be it, but you can't just be it. It takes time to change your sense of self. So in a change situation, you want to be able to support people, to encourage them along the way, to allow them even to make some mistakes as they learn new ways of doing things. If you look at the Bridges model that we've been talking about in this program, you'll see that it does start with letting go. Again, it's not just letting go of the old ways of doing things. It really is letting go of who I am. Because in a new situation, I am going to be somebody different. I will have different tasks, responsibilities, relationships. And it takes a while to let go of that. I mean, remember the time when you became a leader, for the very first time, from being an individual contributor to a leader. You had to let go of those things that you really love doing on your own. And then many times you had to let other people have credit for the things you love doing. And that was a difficult transition. It's the same thing in any transition. You have to let go. And then there's this stage where it's still kind of murky and you're not sure who you are. So again, as a leader, this is the time that you have to work with people. Again, keep encouraging them, supporting them, let them feel things out until they feel comfortable and can really accept the change. There is no way that you can adapt to change quickly as a human being. Then the third myth I'd like to look at is where it says enjoy change. Again, this is something that we would all love for people to do, is to enjoy the change. And there's many things about a new challenge that we may enjoy. So I might love a new responsibility. It gives me something to where I'm not bored anymore. I get new things, but there will always still be things about the change that I still have to adapt to. That's going to take time. So when we're talking about enjoying change, it's a very difficult thing to just accept change and enjoy it, because we have this thing in the middle of our brain called long-term memory. And everything that we see, touch, taste, sense at all has to go through there before we make decisions. And what we lodge in there is everything that we're afraid of and everything that we love. And so when we see what we have to do, we have to consider, what am I now going to let go of that I do enjoy doing? And that's a difficult thing. Or what is it that I'm not going to get to do in the future that I really love to do now? All of these things that we have to consider before we can jump into enjoying change. So as a manager, it's much better if you listen to people, because inside their complaints, they're going to tell you what they really need, what they're afraid of losing, and what they really need to enjoy the change in the future. So listen to those complaints. Don't just avoid them, because they'll tell you what they really need. In fact, I had this experience in 2 companies that I worked for. There was one company, we were sold actually twice in 2 years. The second time, there was these 4 Harvard MBAs came in and said, we know how to do your job. We know how to do this right, do it well. So you just have to listen to us. And they broke everybody into teams and said, go do it. Well, there had been silos in the company. A lot of us didn't get along. We hadn't had any training. So there wasn't even a buy-in. There wasn't an advantage that we were told. We were just told to go do it. Well, I left the company, and 2 years later, the company went bankrupt. I had the opportunity a few years later. I was hired in a company that was about to go bankrupt, that they said, we really want to make a difference. We want to change. We really want to have this company emerge. And so what we went out to the people and we said, you know how to do this. You know how to do this best. We're going to be changing the product line, changing the marketing. What do you think we should do differently? And it was actually the people that said, you know, we don't talk to each other well, and so consequently there are duplication of efforts and miscommunication. And so together we decided that we were going to break the company into cross-functional teams, kind of business units. We created a team council to where the team efforts, whenever there was a problem, they could actually go to their peers to get things resolved. We had buy-in, we had enthusiasm, and it was amazing. They did get to enjoy the change. But it was because of the way it was rolled out that people did feel a part of the change effort. So when you look at change and what needs to happen, that there's another book that I think has a really good message. It's called Managing People is Like Herding Cats. And what you want to do is, you can't just look at every individual and say, okay, let's go with it. But you have to look at each person and say, what does the change mean to you? What's possible for you? How can I help you? And as a manager, I have to look at each one and gently persuade them to move forward as if I were herding cats. So in truth, as humans, we have many reactions to change, and this includes you. So in the process, not only are you going to be monitoring all the reactions your people are having, but also pay attention to yourself. They're looking to you. You need to be their inspiration and their courage. So what are you going to do to help shift into possibility?